Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Made Me Do It podcast. My name is Dario and I'm proud to host these great conversations with coffee professionals and coffee adjacent professionals around the world. In this episode, I speak to Max from the BlueWater Group. We have a great conversation about their new cafe station water treatment system and a bit of his interesting background around sustainability and food. I hope you enjoy this one. Here's Max. Magic, man. Well, thanks for making the time to chat with me, Max.
No, it's my pleasure.
It's been a really quick intro to the company and the product, and it all happened pretty quickly. But we're really enjoying the system. So, just as a way of a bit of an introduction for our listeners, I'm sitting on the other side of the world to Max, who is the product developer, if I'm not mistaken, for the new cafe station from BlueWater.
Yeah, it's a product marketing manager.
Okay, amazing. We have had the opportunity to work with the BlueWater Group and have the new cafe station installed in our cafe. We've got a pretty cool setup where we can adjust our mineral content from on the filter bar separately or independently from the espresso bar, and the coffees are tasting really great, and the water tastes really great as well. So it's good to be here, good to chat, get to learn a bit more about the system and the ideas behind it and the team, and just share with our listeners the importance of water in brewing. This isn't a very technical podcast generally. It's more of a conversational podcast exploring sort of motivation and passion within and around the coffee industry. So yeah, we'll definitely get into a bit of the personal stuff as well. But it's great to meet you, Max. Thanks for coming on.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome, man. As a way of starting, I think it would be great for myself and our listeners to just get a bit of background. I did Google you, as one does, and I see you've got a background in the food industry as a chef before water. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. I became a chef because I wanted to go skiing, and then I just stuck to getting better and better. So I wound up in fine dining and kept on working for a couple of years.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know that the company is based in Sweden, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Are you originally from Sweden as well?
Yeah, I'm from the southern part of Sweden, which is got sort of kind of its own culture. So I have a very specific dialect for being a Swede.
Okay, that's awesome, man. And how would you describe the difference in culture?
I always say that we're the Italians of Sweden.
Okay.
We got a little bit more confidence. We speak very direct, and there's no BS. We just go.
Are there a lot of hand gestures as well?
No, actually, the hands are most often stuck in their back denim pockets.
Nice. So got the cool calm Swedes and the passionate vocal Italians kind of all mixed together there in terms of culture.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My dad's side of the family is actually from Sicily, so I've got a bit of Italian blood, and I grew up in a very Italian household with lots of hand gestures and like loud voices and never a dull moment.
I do get a lot of comments about, because I do a lot of public speaking and I've done a lot of TV. I speak with my hands.
Okay.
I've heard that, and I've seen it as well. It's kind of a nice thing, like being a bit of a animated version of yourself.
Absolutely. That is so interesting. So you've done a bunch of public speaking and TV work. Is that within the culinary industry, or what is the context there?
So my focus has been on sustainability for the past 15, 20 years, and knowing the origin of food, and how we can supply ourselves with the resources that are within the planetary boundaries. And it's although it's easy science, it doesn't really get delivered to the people who actually need to hear it in the way they need to hear it, because it's sort of flipping over the current status quo on how products and which products are moved from where to where. So the animal-based proteins are sort of the first go choice of building a menu. And we could be thinking in other ways about that. So I'm not saying people should go plant-based, but I'm helping people to move away from the most intensely climate affecting products and how to replace them.
That's so interesting.
But, yeah, it's kind of an ongoing theme. I'm actually going to a big congress center next week to do one of these workshops to help them understand the equations.
That's amazing. I mean, my sort of connection when I think of, you know, Sweden and sustainability, I'm immediately thinking of Greta Thunberg. Is there a general sort of like push within Sweden towards sustainability? I know the answer to that is probably yes, but do you see it as a spearhead in the movement towards sustainability in the EU at the moment?
I would. So a very personal take on the whole Greta Thunberg movement is that we should be more outspoken and more progressive about the sustainability shift, but it's actually not that great in a country that is known internally for their milk and meat.
Sure.
So I think the reaction of the Fridays for Future and Greta Thunberg is because of this sort of silent approval of going about business as usual and then speaking a lot about sustainable choices. So I think it's grown out of frustration that we should be able to do better for this country. We are doing great. We are focusing. School food is free here. It's on the tax payer.
Okay.
And that's I think half of all the dishes served in this country are through paid by taxpayers, so through our public system. So they focus a lot on bringing the climate impact down.
Wow.
So we can actually do a lot of stuff, but that's also where the politicians get included, and you need to as a politician, you need to make popular choices, and sometimes it's not the most popular one to make the sustainable choice, and so there's a mishmash of everything. But overall, we do pretty good here in this country. Absolutely.
That's amazing. I think I think back to a conversation I had years ago with, it was actually a roasting machine manufacturer in the States, and we were talking about different options. At the time, I was looking to purchase a larger machine, and I was also I am very interested in sustainability, and it's a sort of a foundational focus for us as a business as well. And when I say that, it's like such an easy thing to say and such a hard thing to do. So I know that we fall short in every category, but it's definitely front of mind for us. But I remember having this conversation, and we were talking about machines and afterburners and, all the accessories that were, available to the machine. And the sort of feedback I was getting from the salesperson was, if your local authorities, your local municipality doesn't mandate the use of an afterburner, it's not really worth spending the money on it. And it really hit home for me at that time that if change is going to happen, we can't rely only on the individual to make that change. It has to be law. And that seems to be the big push is just, getting laws changed, changing industry. It's not necessarily about the person at home making changes. That's great, but we need to see it happening on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
So
two of the choices I see as the most important ones is that politicians make the choice for a more sustainable future, and the commercial choice is easier, meaning it's more price competitive than the non-sustainable choice.
Sure, that makes sense.
Because no one person will in a big of a number make a more expensive choice just because of sustainability.
Absolutely.
We're not there as a collective species yet, unfortunately. Unless it's connected to like real hedonism, like coffee.
Absolutely, coffee is such a great example of that.
Yeah.
That is really interesting. I think sustainability, up to this point, in my mind at least, has definitely been the more expensive option. Whether it's the choice of materials for your takeaway cups, all the way through to through to packaging and shipping and so on and so forth. Every time you want to do something on a more sustainable level, there's a premium charge for it. And I think you're right. If there's a way to get to the point where the sustainable option is cheaper, that's going to drive change much faster than anything else.
Yeah,
really
that was
interesting.
that was one of my big focuses with the cafe station. Was like, how do we make this valuable enough to add that very, very low extra cost. So it feels like it's a zero-sum game.
Absolutely. And I'm really keen to explore the thinking behind that and how that all happened. But before we go there, I need to circle back to your intro. You wanted to study cooking so that you could work, where you could go skiing. That's awesome. Where were you skiing, and is that something that you're still very interested in? Was it just a hobby, or did you take it further than that?
I spent 3 seasons in the European Alps. So once a season here for us is December to April, May. So basically went down to Austria, Switzerland, and France, took a job as a chef, and worked night times, and then skied daytime and got paid, and just lived life in the Alps.
Sounds dreamy.
Yeah. And people from all over the world go there and have the same mindset. We all gather around the love of skiing and the love of the Alps and nature. But that was like my first 3 years after graduating from chef school. And somewhere along there, you need to sort of make a decision and grow up. So I started focusing more on like becoming a better chef, and skiing was more a vacational thing. So I do go back to the Alps. It's been a while, but now I'm very much into ultra running.
Oh, cool.
So I actually went down to the Alps in September to Chamonix and ran the mountains with a friend of mine for 4 days.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. Jeez. It's a little bit more effort.
A little bit more effort, exactly. You're not just pointing your skis downhill.
Yeah. It's more like pointing your toes straight uphill. Very steep hill.
Oh my word, that's amazing. My partner's father, after studying his law degree, this is many years ago, went and spent a few ski seasons in the US, and he looks back on that time as one of his the favorite periods of his life. And interestingly, he still skis every year, but he's transitioned into mountain biking in a huge way for the past couple of decades. So pretty similar, instead of pointing downhill, he's pointing uphill with his bikes. We tend to choose the harder options later, I think.
Yeah, it's something about waking up and feeling that you're in a room in nature when you have these mountain walls surrounding you. It's like easier to grasp which life you're living. I can sometimes compare it to like the life in Denmark, which is like probably the flattest country in the world. They always like speak about it's so goddamn flat in this country, and they go to the Swedish mountains or the Alps. because they want this juxtapositioning.
Wow.
And I can relate to that as well, even though it's a little bit more topography here in Sweden. But like living in the Alps and having mountains, it's like easier to navigate where you are in the world. I'm about to finish the book Mastery by Robert Greene, where he speaks about the Polynesian people who could navigate from Micronesia to Hawaii without any technicalities whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they could do it like in such a high speed, and they felt currents and they looked at stars and they always knew where they were. So they never panicked. And it's just like this amazing, mind-blowing ability as humans have, like to really find our space in nature. I find that like at my age now, that's sort of more salient for me than it was before. Like, where are we in nature and what's our relationship to nature? How can we preserve it? Like, it's I think we should be connected more to the outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate. I've grown up surfing, and being in the ocean for me is, I think I get that same sort of feeling. Just connected to nature and just very, hyper aware of your surroundings and disconnected as well from technology and social media and all that goes with it. It feels like a detox every time I paddle out. And it's, as you say, it just makes you feel a sense of your place in the world, I guess. Which is amazing. We're actually heading down the coast tomorrow, so I'm going to be spending a few days in the ocean, which I'm really looking forward to. We obviously have the opposite weather experience to you at the moment. It's about 35 degrees and very humid here at the moment. So the beach is the right choice.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm doing the quite opposite. I'm trying to get out to do a run in the forest with my spike shoes and then go for a ice cold dip in a lake and then a sauna.
Wow. Jeepers. I mean, it sounds really awesome, but I think I'll take the balmy, 22 degree Indian Ocean water this weekend over the ice dip.
It's going to be -5 this weekend.
Oh my goodness! Oh my word! We were in Cape Town last weekend, and the water is much colder than where I live, and I felt like we were doing something brave by getting in the ocean there, but it definitely wasn't -5. I promise you. Amazing.
Yeah,
Max, that's incredible, man. I think, to pivot onto the BlueWater side of things, you obviously have with your strong background in sustainability, I'm interested to see or to hear where the project or the focus on sustainability and the water treatment system have dovetailed for you, and how this all came about for you to be running the marketing side of this exciting project.
So our system, our purification system, takes care of, like, first and foremost, it takes care of one really serious problem we have as a human race, is that our water is so contaminated. The solution without our system is to buy water from some kind of plant that really purifies and mineralizes the water and puts it in a container that's not made of plastic, and then ships it out, and then we can get PFAS and microplastic free hydration. That's sort of like if we really put an emphasis on getting rid of the intake of contaminants. That's the way to do it. But fortunately, that's not the case, both fortunately and unfortunately, because it's not moved up to the agenda to have contaminant-free water just yet. So what our solution does is that it does it under the sink for people or businesses in just an ongoing flow. We have the most compactful and high-efficient purification membrane in the world, so we can get rid of that. So for that's like one of the sustainability parts of it. It's like it's safe to drink forever. without having to buy plastic bottles. And from that, you can also do sort of a circular economy, or having a reusable system for your home, where you just keep filling up maybe stainless steel bottles that don't contain any plastics. So that's a big part of the sustainability.
Absolutely. I also think of, the environmental cost of shipping water around the world, and essentially you guys are only shipping a mineral concentrate that then gets diluted out, instead of shipping a finished product around the world, which has got a much higher environmental impact. So that makes a lot of sense to me as well. And it's something I really liked about the system from the get-go, is that it just feels extremely efficient, and I can't believe how small the reverse osmosis system is. It's a tiny little unit, and it's so efficient.
Yeah. So that's one of the patents that we have in the IP of the company, is that we have the smallest, most efficient reverse osmosis. We call it superior osmosis because of the high efficiency, and it's everything to do with like the way we purify the water. So we basically just bring down all different types of waters all over the world to the same level. It's the same end result all over.
Okay.
So for a business like a coffee shop or a coffee chain, being either global or just like, I don't know how things are in your city, but like London, if you have a chain, you will have different water coming out of the faucets if it's just like a couple of blocks away from each other.
Absolutely.
Which is like, it's insane.
No, it is insane. To try and achieve any level of consistency is just practically impossible. We can dial in espresso recipes until the cows come home, but if there's no consistency in water, we'll never be able to match quality. So
yeah.
I mean, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, Thomas from Motors Coffee in Paris, a couple of months ago, and he was just saying that their espresso recipes at their shop, he's tried to replicate them in other shops in Paris, helping friends out and getting their espressos dialed in, and the recipes just don't work because the water exactly where they are in Paris seems to be slightly different to where his friends' shops are. And that just seems crazy to me. To have that, to be able to remove that variable is massive. So it really is exciting. So just for our listeners who are unaware of how the system works and what makes it unique, would you mind just taking us through what a typical RO system for a cafe would look like and how it would work, and then the difference to the cafe station? I found it fascinating.
Yeah, so if you look at the current setup that a lot of the other brands do, they put in a reverse osmosis system to purify the water. And when you have purified water, it's very acidic, so it's not good for the interior of the machine, of the espresso machine. It's corrosive. So you need to put back minerals to stop the corrosion and also get some better extraction for the coffee, because RO water in coffee extraction is not good either. So they put in these static, cheap filters that release a lot of minerals in the beginning, and then slowly they just die off and they barely release any minerals. And that is creating these fluctuations in coffee quality, because the TDS levels or the ppm, they just go up and down. And to make them more stable, they made this half solution about putting in a bypass. And a bypass is basically you're taking the water before it gets purified and you run that passed by the purification system into the water that you have already purified. So you're sort of putting back contaminated water into the pipes. But that is because the water from the faucet contains a natural level of minerals, which is sort of standardized by the water plants in your city. So now you have you're sort of installing a solution that's just solving for half the assignment, and the bypass valve is now sort of being worked on to be a solution when it's not a solution. It's a failure from the way we see it. So that's the current systems that are out there.
And that's so interesting because in some cities, like for example in Munich, the water coming off the hillside is like very high in ppm, but the mineral content is generally good minerals. There's no chlorine or anything like that in the water. It hasn't been treated in that way. But where we are in South Africa, we have a huge amount of chlorine in our water. So besides the health effects of chlorine, obviously we have the negative taste effect. So if we are bypassing and adding that chlorine back in, I've always seen that as a huge failing of the RO systems that have been on the market.
Yeah, I know. It's I would have preferred that they didn't launch at all, because they've sort of anchored themselves as the solution that everyone else needs to work close to, because they put in sort of like an adjustment to, like, this is the way the system works. You only need to change the filter every once half year or once a year. But it's like it's more emperor's new clothing, the way we see it. Just to your comment there about the water in Munich, and also like in Switzerland, where the TDS is really high coming off the mountains, it's supernatural. One thing that is so I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me explain our system firstly here.
Okay.
Our system purifies the water to we get down to 4 TDS. So super naked, superior osmosis water. We then dose back our mineral solution into the mix in a very fine-tuned scaling. And then it goes into the espresso machine and you can extract coffee. That dosing can be adjusted by an app. Going from certain increments, you can raise the TDS, and you start out from 70 ppm or TDS up to 40 ppm. What that does is our formulation of minerals is designed in a way that it doesn't scale the machines, because natural water was never meant to be cooked. Like nature's water, the actual water that runs out from mountains and springs is full of chemical bonds that break when it's cooked. That's why you have this precipitation of minerals that clog up your machine. So when you're looking at Switzerland and Munich, and people are speaking about, like, we have the perfect water because it just comes from the mountains and it's free from contaminants. That's true. That's most sincerely true. And it's safe to drink. It's super to drink. But for an espresso machine that's continuously cooking it, it's going to precipitate, and it's going to cause scaling. And it's going to get into the valves and nodes, and you need some heavy repair quite shortly. We have those situations here in Sweden as well, where there's a lot of minerals, natural minerals in the water. So our solution of minerals, they don't break the bonds and precipitate in that way when you cook the water. So you don't have scaling in that sense in your espresso machine when you put in our system. So it's a 3-step punch in our total system. It's firstly, we purify the water. We get rid of the microplastics and PFAS, so it's very safe, and everything else. So microplastic and PFAS, why we keep saying those is that because those are the smallest molecules. There are much bigger ones, which are viruses, bacteria, and heavy chemicals or heavy metals. And then we also have the actual minerals and the mineral molecules, which are also big. But to be able to get rid of the really small ones, we need to just get rid of everything. That's why we are so naked in the water. And then we just dose back our minerals. And that's the only TDS you will find in the water once we're done. So when you're speaking about, like, in competition of coffee, and we have a partnership with SCA as well on a global scale. They're speaking about, like, we want to have water within 70 and 120 TDS. Okay, and our question back, so what do you want? Do you want 70 or 120?
Exactly.
Because they're used to the fluctuation. And then we're like, so how much does it matter if the TDS is only minerals and not everything else that usually is in the water? Because the TDS is like its connectivity. But if the TDS is only the minerals that are actually good for coffee extraction, do you actually need 120, or is 70 the new 120 if it's just minerals? These are sort of the conversations we have now, and also with SCA about like what's the future of doing coffee water and modulating water for different beans in competitions. We're getting like super down in the weeds of everything. It's really interesting to hear like all the baristas out there speaking about these.
That's fascinating. I mean, it's the water competition is another variable that we just don't have any control over. And as you say, knowing what the ppm is, what the total hardness is, doesn't really help us a huge amount.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. I really hope that, very selfishly, we've got our competition cycle approaching in March. I hope that we're going to see a cafe station used at our local competitions as well, because I can honestly say that every variable that we remove is another variable that allows the barista to deliver the best results on the day. And I can only be for that. I think that's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
It's the one
Like
benefit
one
of
of
Brewers Cup, being able to build your own water, which we just don't get to do in barista. So this is great.
Yeah. So we're doing the World of Coffee in Dubai now in February. That's we did Copenhagen this year, and we supply the competitors with water.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So now we're starting to even out the playing field for everyone now.
So the
Yeah.
water also tastes very different. I guess this is something I wanted to ask about, because at our filter bar we had a reverse osmosis. Sorry, not a reverse osmosis system. An active carbon block system with a UV light, which was doing a really great job of getting rid of all the stuff we didn't want in the water. And we were left with around 70 to 80 ppm, depending on the municipal supply. But when I put the cafe station to the light profile at 70 ppm, the water tastes vastly different, which is obviously the impact of the mineral makeup. One of the points that I keep reading about is the fact that it's Swedish minerals. It's a liquid Swedish mineral mix. Do you think that plays a role, that it's specifically I don't know, a mix of Swedish minerals, or is it just the fact of where these particular minerals come from? Do you think it changes the taste based on the same mineral makeup from another place?
It's probably to do with, firstly, the water is completely empty from the beginning. An active carbon block can't get rid of everything. So your experience is like, you can, if you have the opportunity, I don't know the setup you have exactly, but if you try RO water from our system, just like to get the mouth feel on how empty water feels like,
Yeah.
that's a great starting point. And then like starting to taste all the other settings and also other types of waters, you will sort of find out that you're slowly adapting to what water should be tasting like. We have the system here at the office, of course, in Stockholm, and I live 5 minutes a bike ride from here, and my water at home does not taste as good as it did anymore, because I'm used to really great water at the office. So it's what have been adapted to. But in terms of minerals, we have magnesium, calcium in our water on a very specific ratio of 2 to 1. So for every one magnesium, there's 2 calcium. That makes a big difference.
Okay.
That setting of the dosing of minerals is because that creates the best absorption of all minerals that you drink. The receptors of magnesium, calcium will be saturated at the same levels. So if we would have changed the dosage between them, it will also change the characteristics on how you perceive the water. So that's probably what you're feeling is like the composition. You're speaking about 80 to 90 TDS of something. You have something in there that's causing these 80, 90 particles to be picked up by your TDS meter. And our 70 TDS is just the magnesium calcium.
Right. Absolutely. That makes so much sense. And I think the one interesting thing for me has also been the mouthfeel. It feels like jeepers. It doesn't sound like a good descriptor, but just not from a taste perspective, just a mouthfeel. It almost feels soapy. It's like a very coating mouthfeel, and that's even at the low ppms. That's the light
Yeah.
profile. So it's been
Are
it's been
you are you
interesting.
sorry, are you a wine drinker?
Yes, I am.
I will suggest that you try the light setting of water, drinking a very heavily oaked wine,
Okay,
red wine, and then the bold setting, drinking a very sharp, crispy white wine that's chilled.
that is so interesting. I'm definitely going to give
You
that a try.
will you will find out that it really acts with your mouth feel and the saliva production and the way you perceive the wine. It doesn't affect the flavor of wine, but the actual feel of the wine is changed.
That's so
Um,
interesting. I mean,
yeah,
there
yeah, we
has to
said,
be application for coffee, for filter coffee. If we have a very high acidity filter coffee with a certain mouthfeel, it might be interesting to pair that with a certain profile of water between sips of the coffee.
yeah, yeah. Now when the system is out there and I'm visiting customers and trying like their brews, they're like, we found this setting creates the perfect acidity, sweetness balance, but also with this lingering mouthfeel, blah, blah, blah. And this is the best one for the espresso because now we can get this chocolatey note without the bitterness. Like now we're getting people to interact with the system and start playing and like making these recommendations. And it's so much fun to see.
Yeah, that's amazing. We've definitely yeah, it's been such fun just swiping left or right on the app and ending up with a different water profile and being able to taste coffee side by side with different waters. It's been really really great. I expected that we were going to love the 70 ppm light profile for most of our filter coffees, but we've actually been enjoying the original profile at 100 ppm. It's just brought a beautiful balance to the acidity and the sweetness, and it's been great. But then some of the more floral coffees enjoy the lighter profile. So it's been great to have the flexibility to change so easily. So yeah, I can really say that we're loving the system at the moment. So
One
yes,
fun thing that we did was we had a barista summit here in Stockholm, where a industry magazine invited all the top baristas, and we had Standout Coffee do one bean with two different water settings and pour over, and these 20 baristas got to taste the coffee. They all experienced a difference between them, like a vast difference between the two settings. And then we got the dessert served, and they were starting to talk about which one they preferred for this bean, and they were like 50-50. Like we were like this one, oh, we like this one. Then they had some dessert. It was a kind of ice cream and berries, and then they had the coffee, and then most of them like switched, like, no, I think this coffee with this setting goes better with this acidity in the berries for the dessert. So looking at the application in a high-end restaurant, serving a coffee that's adapted to the actual dessert is sort of the next level of a customer experience at a restaurant. Just like doing all these adaptations to the customer's preferences is something that the industry is looking for today. It's like it's not just going to have a meal. You're selling an experience, and you want to sort of make it tailored to them. So this will probably end up somewhere as well, where they're doing these adjustments according to which dessert they've chosen.
It would be so interesting to take the same coffee with different water profiles and pair them, well, pair the brewed coffees with different desserts or meals. It's just another, every piece of equipment we add as an industry, which allows us to better control a certain variable. It's just another tool in our toolkit. And now we can start talking about adjusting the water profile to achieve a lower acidity instead of having to change the coffee with the same water profile. So it is so fascinating. It's really interesting, and the applications are vast. We just need some really creative flavor experts who have access to both food and coffee to bring the two together so beautifully. We've resisted in our cafe. We've resisted a full kitchen for such a long time, and I don't see us going there anytime soon. So we'll leave that to the fine dining experts and maybe get involved in the recipe development side. But that is so exciting. I'm really excited to see where this goes. When did the system actually launch? I think it's very recently, isn't it?
Yeah. It was launched like a proper launch in October, but we did a soft launch in Sweden in March, and then a second sort of pickup during the World of Coffee in Copenhagen. But the actual launch was now in October in Sweden, UK, and in South Africa.
That's really
but
cool.
Like Paris and Berlin, and like Germany and France are like really reaching out to us and wanting the system like now. So we have a lot of cafes getting in touch with us from those countries.
That's very exciting. I know that we will be sending little sample mineral packs to a bunch of our cafe partners in Europe as well. We actually sent some off to Bel Air Coffee in Switzerland today. So for those of you who are customers of ours and listening into this podcast, don't worry, there's some good water coming your way. So
remember to have really like naked water when you mix in the minerals. So they can buy distilled water from the hardware store that you do for battery or something, because that's distilled water. That's empty as well, but it's expensive to do.
Absolutely. So this is a good way to get to taste the mix, and it's really exciting. So Max, what does sorry, carry on.
Your European connection. Do you know how we found you, or I found you?
No.
No, it's where you did your European tour like a couple of months ago, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I was in London when you were in London as well, and I was sort of 2 steps behind you the whole time, and I just kept seeing your bags on the shelves, and I asked like, so who are these Bluebird? Like, these guys are touring Europe. They're like really good coffee roasters. You should get in touch with them. So I'm like, okay, and
that's
I sent
amazing.
that off to my colleague in South Africa, and then like they got in touch with you, and now you have a system installed.
Yeah, small world, hey.
Well, it's like you planned a tour and you got the most of it.
Absolutely.
Marketing works.
Marketing works, man. Marketing works, and I mean, it's like fine lines in life and in business. I was at the World Barista Championships in 2021 and connected with now a friend who used to work at Minor Figures, and that led to a relationship with the Minor Figures crew, which led to a relationship with Marcus at Sweet Spot in Munich. And that kind of was the start of our European business. And now we're very fortunate to be shipping quite a lot of coffee to Europe every week. And and now we connected with you guys, and we have an amazing water system in our cafe. And I'm really excited for the application across our wholesale network, to be honest with you, because I've had so many conversations with cafe owners who are tasting our coffee on their setups, and they're just not experiencing the coffee exactly the same as what we are. And in some cases, they're experiencing it on a better level than what we are, because our water has, by no stretch of the imagination, been the perfect water, but it's the water we're tasting our coffees on. And now we're in a situation where we're tasting our coffees with very specific water that is exactly the same every time, And with or without the BlueWater system in our cafe partners' shops, we can at least say to them, these are the specs. This is what we're working with. And you can build your water to these specs, or there's a system available that can, actually create that water for you just by turning your tap on, which I think is staggering.
Yeah. And you're also like mostly selling beans to customers as well at your shop in South Africa, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So one of the ideas that came out of one of the coffee shop owners in Paris was like, wow, this is an extra revenue stream, because now we can sell the beans and then we can sell like a bottle of water from the system and say, this is the water that you should brew it on. And hopefully that's in some kind of reusable container, so the customer comes back. And you're in circular economy, which must be a part of the future. And you're giving them the experience as close to what you have envisioned them to do it. Given that they don't have the exact expensive machinery, but they have the water, they have the beans, they have your recommendation. Like they can move closer and get this experience. Like selling the experience is a way better view than just selling a product.
Yeah, that's amazing. I hadn't thought of that, and it's such a great idea, because often, as we know, our home customers will take this beautiful bag of coffee home. They'll even have all of the brewing equipment they need. They'll have, masterful recipes in place, but they're using tap water, and the tap water's got all this junk in it. And it has been a bit of a tough one. I think in South Africa, we have this like warped sort of sense of our water being very good because it's drinkable out of the tap in most places. But it's drinkable at a safe to consume level. It's not drinkable from a great for your health level or from a taste perspective, So it has been an education process, and it's been great. I mean, we even in this last week, we've sent out our subscription boxes for our main subscription program to home users all over South Africa and some internationals. And we have a newsletter that goes out in that box, and we were talking all about water in this newsletter and our experiences with this new system. And our interest in water and our obsession with water didn't start here. It's been ongoing for a long time. We just haven't had the tools. We haven't had tools that I've been happy with to replicate good results all the time. And one of the things I was talking to cafe owners about on my trip around Europe a couple months ago was speaking about their water systems and the shortcomings and the pros and cons of each system. And to me, it just didn't seem like there was a perfect solution. So when BlueWater Group reached out to me, I was immediately skeptical. And then I did a bit of research, and I saw that the team from Standout was involved in the development, and having that sort of like backing, I was at least interested to know more. And upon research, I've been blown away by the technology and really happy with the actual system.
Yeah, I was very firm on, like, as soon as we started this, I just like, okay, who knows coffee and beans and flavor in the best way that we can ask for a validation. No payment, no nothing. Here's the product. Please try it and let us know what you think.
Exactly.
And Oscar and Alexander were so good on they explain their experience so well. It's like, yeah, we have something here. So they've been so helpful for us to understand, like, we're on the right path. Without that, if they would have said like, nah, this is nothing, then it's like, I wouldn't have been so secure on moving forward.
Absolutely. No, it's been great. I've had a great time with the system, and we're just getting to know it. And it's been great working with your whole team. Isaac has been so helpful, and the team in South Africa have been great. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for reaching out and having us on. And we're very grateful to have the system in our cafe. Yeah,
thank you, and thank you for your endorsement as well. Like the the words that you shared during the expo was amazing. I can share this much, that there will be improvements during the next year that you will be able to access.
Amazing. That's very, very exciting. Yeah, from my perspective, we are fortunate to be approached by, brands every now and then to partner up, and I'm just so cautious to put our name to anything I don't believe in. So, we work very closely with certain brands who there's the main benefit for me is just access to information and access to new products as they launched, and just being at the cutting edge of where coffee is from an equipment point of view and just a technology point of view. It's not a monetary thing only. So yeah, it always is a big decision to put your name to something, but I can honestly say that we're very happy to be working with you guys and excited to see where the system goes in the future. Because if this is version 1, I'm excited to see what comes in the future. So that's really cool.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Dario.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
Max.
for those words.
For the listeners to this podcast, if you want to learn more about the BlueWater Group's cafe station, Max, where should they go for more information, and how do they get in touch with you guys?
They can either go to our Instagram page, BlueWater Globe, or our webpage, bluewaterglobal.com. There's a full landing page there for the cafe station, and if they enter their names, they will wind up with our teams, and depending on which market, we will get back to you and answer any questions. So those are the two main channels we communicate with.
Fantastic. Max, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been great to chat, and I hope we'll get to meet in person one day soon.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Dario.
Awesome, Max. Keep well. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Coffee Made Me Do It podcast. It's rare that we get to partner up with such awesome, innovative brands and get to experience their products early on in the launch process. So I'm very grateful for the BlueWater Group's trust and excited to continue working with their products. Thank you, Max, for such a great conversation. To my listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll catch you in the next one very soon, and enjoy the festive season ahead of us. Ciao.